Millions of Catholics are living inside America's largest cities, yet some of the places with the biggest Catholic populations no longer look Catholic at first glance. Their old immigrant neighborhoods have changed, historic parishes have closed or merged, and new communities are quietly rebuilding the church in Spanish, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Korean, Creole, and dozens of other languages. This is not a ranking of the most beautiful cathedrals or the cities with the highest Catholic percentage. It is a journey through the 10 metropolitan areas where the greatest number of Catholics live, worship, raise families, attend schools, serve the poor, and reshape the future of the Church in the United States. Some cities inherited their Catholic strength from Irish, Italian, and Polish immigrants. Others are rising because of Latino, Asian, African, and Caribbean families arriving with new traditions, new energy, and a faith they refuse to leave behind. And the city at number 1 is not simply larger than the others. Its Catholic population is so vast and diverse that it contains dozens of different Catholic worlds within a single metropolitan area. Subscribe to the channel, and let us begin our countdown of the 10 cities with the most Catholics in the United States. Number 10. Phoenix, Arizona. Across the Valley of the Sun, new neighborhoods seem to rise from the desert almost overnight. Roads stretch toward the mountains, subdivisions replace empty land, and thousands of families arrive each year searching for work, space, and a new beginning. Moving quietly inside that growth is one of the fastest expanding Catholic communities in the United States. The Diocese of Phoenix estimates that it serves more than 2 million Catholics through 95 parishes and 24 missions. Yet its territory covers roughly 44,000 square miles, creating a challenge that cannot be solved by numbers alone. In some areas, homes are being completed faster than churches can be built, while growing parishes must add masses, classrooms, and ministries simply to keep pace. Hispanic Catholics remain at the heart of this expansion, carrying traditions deeply rooted in the Southwest. Around them, Filipino families celebrate major feast days. Vietnamese communities preserve their language through worship. Native American Catholics maintain centuries-old traditions, and African families bring new music and devotional life. The result is not one Catholic culture, but several distinct communities sharing the same rapidly changing city. Phoenix itself had reached an estimated population of about 1.7 million by 2024, while the wider metropolitan area had grown beyond 5 million. As development spreads farther into the desert, the church faces an urgent question: who will build the next parish, teach the next generation, and serve families living far beyond the old Catholic map? Phoenix holds number 10 because Catholicism here is not resting on a fading inheritance. It is expanding beside a city that refuses to stop moving. Before Sunday Mass begins, parking lots fill beneath the Arizona sun, revealing a Catholic future already taking shape. Number 9. San Francisco Bay Area, California. The bells are still ringing in one of America's most secular and technologically driven regions, even when much of the city seems too busy to hear them. Behind the glass towers, crowded trains, rising housing costs, and constantly shifting neighborhoods, the San Francisco Bay Area remains home to more than 1 million Catholics. According to the United States Religion Census, the San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley metropolitan area recorded about 1,022,000 Catholic adherents in 2020. That represented more than 1/5 of the region's population and made Catholicism its largest religious community by a wide margin. Yet Catholic presence here rarely feels concentrated. It is scattered across 3 cities, distant suburbs, immigrant districts, wealthy coastal communities, and working families pushed farther inland by some of the highest living costs in the country. The contrast becomes sharper inside the churches. A parish founded by Irish or Italian immigrants may now welcome families from Mexico, the Philippines, Vietnam, China, Korea, Tonga, Nigeria, and Central America. In the Archdiocese of San Francisco alone, Mass is celebrated in more than 17 languages, turning the same altar into a meeting place for communities that may share little outside their faith. But diversity does not remove the pressure. When longtime residents leave because they can no longer afford the neighborhood, parishes lose families, volunteers, and students. Other churches suddenly grow as Catholics relocate across the bay or deeper into the suburbs. The Catholic map keeps moving, forcing communities to preserve their identity while adapting to people who arrived with different music, devotions, and memories. San Francisco reaches number 9 through a powerful contradiction. Catholicism no longer controls the public culture, yet it continues beneath the surface through schools, charitable ministries, multilingual liturgies, and ordinary believers who refuse to let faith disappear into the noise of the modern city. In a region built around constant innovation, some of its deepest spiritual roots are still refusing to be erased. Number 8. Washington, District of Columbia. Every morning, power moves through Washington in black cars, crowded trains, security checkpoints, and hurried footsteps beneath the shadow of the Capitol. Yet beyond the hearings, elections, and political battles, another population gathers quietly across the region. More than 1 million Catholics live throughout the Washington, Arlington, and Alexandria metropolitan area, making faith part of a city better known for government than religion. The United States Religion Census recorded about 1,025,000 Catholic adherents here in 2020, spread across more than 200 congregations. But this community cannot be understood through Washington alone. It extends into Maryland, Northern Virginia, and parts of West Virginia, crossing political boundaries while daily life continues across the same roads, neighborhoods, and rail lines. At the center stands the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, where pilgrims, students, diplomats, immigrant families, and national leaders may enter through the same doors. Nearby, Catholic universities give the local church an intellectual presence rarely matched in another American city. Still, the deeper story unfolds far from official ceremonies, inside parish classrooms, food programs, immigrant ministries, and churches where families rebuild community after arriving from another country. That closeness to power creates constant tension. Catholics here work inside institutions that shape national policy, even as church teaching often conflicts with the priorities of both major political camps. Immigration, poverty, abortion, racial justice, religious liberty, and care for refugees are not distant debates. They reach parish halls, Catholic charities, family conversations, and Sunday homilies. Yet Washington's Catholic identity remains larger than politics. Latino communities are driving much of the region's growth, while African, Asian, Caribbean, diplomatic, and military families bring traditions from across the world. A mass near the national monuments may feel formal and ceremonial, while another only a few miles away carries the music, language, and memory of a distant homeland. More than 1 million Catholics live where belief, public duty, and political power collide every day. When Washington's government buildings grow dark, candles remain lit across the metropolitan area, while the arguments heard in courtrooms, offices, and congressional chambers follow ordinary believers into parish halls, family conversations, and the silence of prayer. Number 7. Houston, Texas. The first sign of Houston's Catholic growth is not found in a cathedral. It appears in overcrowded classrooms, packed parking lots, additional weekend masses, and parish offices trying to serve families arriving faster than local communities can absorb them. Across this sprawling metropolitan region, Catholicism is expanding through migration, young households, and neighborhoods that barely existed a generation ago. More than 1.7 million Catholics live within the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston. They are served through 146 parishes, spread across 10 counties, and nearly 8,800 square miles. Mass is celebrated in more than 14 languages, giving the local church the character of an international crossroads rather than a single regional culture. That diversity has grown beside one of the fastest expanding metropolitan areas in the country. Between 2023 and 2024, the Houston Metro gained more than 198,000 residents, one of the largest increases nationwide. Houston itself reached about 2,390,000 people in 2024. As development moves farther from the urban core, Catholic families follow, forcing old parish boundaries to stretch across new subdivisions and distant suburbs. Inside those communities, the transformation is deeply personal. Hispanic Catholics carry devotions rooted in Latin America. Vietnamese families protect language and memory through parish life. Filipino, African, African American, and Caribbean Catholics bring distinct music, feast days, and spiritual traditions. The challenge is no longer simply finding enough seats. It is learning how different communities can share leadership, buildings, schedules, and a common future without losing the identities that brought them there. Houston's Catholic population continues to grow across a city defined by distance. A single parish may serve families separated by long highways, different languages, and different histories, yet drawn toward the same altar. As new neighborhoods push farther across the Texas landscape, the Catholic map expands with them, often before the wider country notices what is taking shape. Number 6. Miami, Florida. Miami's Catholic story was not built slowly. It arrived in waves, often after governments collapsed, revolutions hardened, economies failed, or families realized they could no longer remain where they were born. Each new crisis across Latin America and the Caribbean sent another group toward South Florida, and many entered the city carrying a faith already tested by separation. The first major transformation came through Cuban exile. Churches became more than places of worship. They turned into informal reception centers, meeting halls, language bridges, and spaces where people could preserve a national memory that politics had tried to sever. Later, immigrants from Haiti, Nicaragua, Colombia, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, and Central America added their own histories of upheaval, danger, and departure. By 2020, the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Pompano Beach metropolitan area contained about 1,461,000 Catholic adherents, nearly 1/4 of the entire population. But Miami does not feel like one enormous Catholic community. It feels like many Catholic worlds pressed together by geography, each carrying different saints, songs, feast days, accents, and wounds. That closeness can create friction. Older generations often see the parish as the last safe place where the language and customs of home remain intact. Their children may understand the faith but feel less connected to the culture surrounding it. A procession that brings tears to a parent may feel unfamiliar to a teenager. A Spanish or Creole homily may preserve memory for one generation while creating distance for the next. The Archdiocese of Miami serves more than 500,000 Catholics through 109 parishes and missions across Miami-Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties. Across those communities, priests and lay leaders are not simply organizing mass schedules. They are trying to hold families together while identity changes from one generation to another. Miami has become one of the largest Catholic centers in the United States because the city repeatedly receives people at moments of rupture. Their arrival does not end the struggle. It moves that struggle into classrooms, kitchens, parish festivals, and Sunday pews, where a new question slowly replaces the old one. How can a family build a future without losing the faith that carried it through exile? Number 5. Boston, Massachusetts. Boston did not simply inherit a large Catholic population. Catholic communities helped build the city itself. Irish and Italian immigrants raised churches, opened parish schools, founded hospitals, and created networks that carried working families into politics, education, medicine, and public leadership. For generations, Catholicism was woven into the structure of everyday life across Greater Boston. That legacy still has extraordinary weight. In 2020, the Boston, Cambridge, and Newton metropolitan area recorded about 1,828,000 Catholic adherents across more than 330 congregations. Nearly 37% of the region remained connected to the Church, one of the highest proportions among major metropolitan areas in the United States. Few cities combine such a large Catholic population with such a deep institutional history. Yet Boston's place near the top is not sustained by history alone. The Church here has endured one of the most damaging crises in modern American Catholicism. Public revelations of clergy abuse shattered trust, weakened attendance, and forced parish mergers and closures. Institutions once considered permanent became symbols of grief and anger. Even so, Catholic life did not disappear. Roughly 1.8 million people remained connected to the Church across the metropolitan region. The community inside those churches is also changing. Latino, Haitian, Brazilian, African, Vietnamese, and other immigrant Catholics are bringing new languages, devotions, and family traditions into parishes once identified mainly with Irish neighborhoods. A church built for one immigrant generation may now serve several communities whose journeys began on different continents. Boston belongs among the 5 largest Catholic centers because it combines enormous population, historic influence, and an active religious network that survived a profound collapse of trust. Its stone churches still shape the skyline, but the people filling them are no longer simply preserving the past. They are deciding whether one of America's oldest Catholic strongholds can become something new without losing the foundations that made it powerful. Number 4. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In Philadelphia, Catholic life can still surround a family from morning to night. A child enters a parish school. A patient is treated in a Catholic hospital. A food pantry opens beneath a church basement, and a funeral procession passes a neighborhood where the steeple has stood for generations. Few American cities built a Catholic network this complete, and even fewer still carry so much of it. Across the Philadelphia, Camden, and Wilmington metropolitan area, about 1,673,000 people were connected to Catholic communities in 2020. More than 380 congregations served a region stretching through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland. That scale places Philadelphia firmly among the largest Catholic centers in the United States. But the real power of the city was never just population. Catholic institutions once formed an entire social system. Irish, Italian, Polish, and German families did not depend on a single parish alone. They built schools, hospitals, convents, charities, cemeteries, youth groups, and neighborhood associations that carried faith into ordinary life. That structure has weakened. Some schools have closed, parishes have merged, and historic churches now stand in neighborhoods very different from the ones that raised them. The loss is visible, but it has not left an empty shell. New communities are occupying the space in unexpected ways. Latino Catholics bring Marian processions and packed feast days. Vietnamese, Filipino, Haitian, and African families introduce different languages, devotions, and music. A church built for one immigrant group can become home to several others within the same generation. Philadelphia remains near the top, because Catholicism here is still embedded in the machinery of the city. The network is smaller than it once was, but it continues to educate, feed, heal, worship, and bury across hundreds of communities. Beneath the aging stone and changing neighborhoods, one of America's largest Catholic populations is still using the old structure to build a different future. Number 3. Chicago, Illinois. A train crossing Chicago can pass from one Catholic history into another within minutes. Beyond the windows appear brick churches built beside factories, schools attached to crowded parish blocks, Polish spires rising over old industrial neighborhoods, and Mexican religious images filling streets that once carried different languages. Few American cities reveal their Catholic past so clearly in the physical shape of their neighborhoods. The Chicago, Naperville, and Elgin metropolitan area recorded about 2,750,000 Catholic adherents in 2020, connected to nearly 600 congregations. No other religious body in the region approached that scale, placing Chicago among the largest concentrations of Catholic life in the United States. But those millions never formed one uniform community. Irish, Polish, Italian, Lithuanian, German, African American, and Mexican Catholics built distinct parish worlds, often separated by only a few streets. A church was more than a place for Sunday Mass. It marked where families went to school, celebrated weddings, organized festivals, found work connections, and buried the dead. That structure began to shift as factories closed, families moved toward the suburbs, and older ethnic neighborhoods lost population. Some parishes merged, while others were asked to serve communities entirely different from the people who built them. Latino Catholics became central to the city's religious life, bringing Spanish language worship, Marian processions, youth groups, and large family celebrations into historic buildings. The Archdiocese of Chicago now serves nearly 1,950,000 Catholics through more than 200 parishes in Cook and Lake counties. During a typical weekend, more than 1,100 masses are celebrated, including hundreds in Spanish and many others in Polish and additional languages. Catholic schools, hospitals, universities, cemeteries, and charities extend that presence far beyond the sanctuary. Inside one aging church, An older parishioner may still remember the hymns of the community that laid the cornerstone. A few pews away, children from another culture are learning different songs beneath the same stained glass. Chicago's Catholic story continues in that exchange, as one generation leaves behind a building and another slowly turns it into home. Number 2. Los Angeles, California. More than 4 million Catholics live across the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. That figure is larger than the entire population of many American states. Yet there is no single neighborhood where all that Catholic life can be contained. It stretches across 120 cities, from dense immigrant districts to coastal communities, working-class suburbs, and valleys separated by hours of traffic. The Archdiocese serves this enormous population through 288 parishes and 30 missions. Mass is celebrated in 42 languages, while more than 73,000 students attend Catholic schools. Los Angeles is not simply a city with many Catholics. It is the largest and most culturally complex Catholic jurisdiction in the United States. Its scale becomes visible through contrast. A Spanish-language Mass may fill one church before sunrise. Miles away, Filipino Catholics prepare for a feast. Vietnamese families gather around traditions carried across the Pacific, and Korean, Chinese, African, and Pacific Island communities worship according to their own rhythms. These groups do not exist as occasional additions to one dominant culture. Together, they form the Catholic identity of Los Angeles. Geography adds another layer of pressure. The Archdiocese covers Los Angeles, Ventura, and Santa Barbara counties, so its communities are divided by mountains, freeways, distance, and enormous differences in wealth. Some parishes serve recent immigrants facing uncertain legal status and economic hardship. Others operate large schools, social programs, and ministries inside rapidly changing suburbs. Even the number of Spanish-speaking communities reveals the depth of this presence. A national survey found that roughly 240 parishes in the Archdiocese offered Mass in Spanish, more than in any other Catholic jurisdiction in the country. Los Angeles stands just below the top of the ranking because its Catholic population is not only immense, it functions across dozens of cultures, hundreds of parishes, and a metropolitan landscape too vast for any cathedral to represent alone. From crowded urban churches to distant suburban sanctuaries, more than 4 million Catholics are reshaping the western center of the American Church. Number 1. New York City metropolitan area. More than 5 million Catholics live within the greater New York region, a population larger than that of many entire countries. Yet they are not gathered around one cathedral, one ethnic tradition, or even one state. They are spread across Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Long Island, the northern suburbs, and New Jersey, forming the largest concentration of Catholic life anywhere in the United States. 3 major Catholic jurisdictions reveal the scale. The Archdiocese of New York serves about 2.5 million Catholics through nearly 300 parishes. Brooklyn and Queens add roughly 1.3 million across 172 parishes, while the Archdiocese of Newark serves another 1.3 million throughout northern New Jersey. The numbers are immense, but New York's deeper power lies in the way separate Catholic histories occupy the same metropolitan space. Irish, Italian, Polish, and Puerto Rican communities built much of the older parish network. Later arrivals from the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Haiti, the Philippines, China, Korea, Nigeria, Ecuador, and many other countries transformed those churches without removing the memories already inside them. In Brooklyn and Queens alone, Mass is regularly celebrated in 26 languages, across more than 200 churches. One parish may preserve a devotion carried from the Caribbean. Another becomes a center for Chinese Catholic families. A few subway stops away, a congregation gathers in Spanish, Korean, Creole, or Tagalog, beneath stained glass installed by an earlier generation. The social contrast is just as dramatic. Some parishes stand near wealth and global finance, while others distribute food, support migrants, educate children, and serve families living close to poverty. St. Patrick's Cathedral may be the most recognizable symbol, but Catholic New York is far too large to fit inside one building or one borough. After the final Mass ends in Manhattan, worship is still continuing elsewhere across the region. Candles remain lit in Queens, Choirs are still singing in Brooklyn. Families are entering churches on Long Island. And prayers are rising across the Hudson in New Jersey. Across hundreds of neighborhoods, separate communities create one Catholic presence, vast enough to define the top of this ranking. These 10 cities are not simply places with large Catholic populations. Together, they reveal a church being reshaped in real time. Old immigrant strongholds are changing, new Catholic centers are rising, and millions of believers are carrying their faith through languages, neighborhoods, and cultures that earlier generations could never have predicted. From the desert growth of Phoenix to the vast Catholic world of New York, one truth remains clear. American Catholicism is not disappearing into the past. It is moving, adapting, rebuilding, and finding new life wherever people gather around the altar. Some of these cities inherited their Catholic strength. Others are creating it right now. And as the map continues to shift, the next great chapter of the Catholic Church in the United States may already be unfolding in a parish most of the country has never noticed. Subscribe to the channel and stay with us as we uncover the people, places, and hidden transformations shaping the future of Catholicism.